Hello, I'm Aaron Guest, and I'm pleased to meet you all virtually. This will be my discussion thread on the relevance of Western civilization. I'm broadcasting live from my classroom. This is where I currently teach social studies, economics, personal finance, pretty much any one of the subjects in social studies or history. So, to the topic, the relevance of Western civilization, making the case for why Western civilization is relevant today, I think exists in the fact that we have to take this class as one of our requirements. But outside of that, we can see from, at least I can see from the weekly readings, how relevant this discussion of Western civilization and just exactly what encompasses that whole idea of Western civilization. And we see why it is so relevant today. Um, one of the biggest, one of the biggest or I guess most lasting impact from the readings that I had was actually from who put the West in Western civilization. I have it pulled up on my smart board here, so just I may turn around a few times, but that's just to kind of get. I don't have the material printed, but I do have it electronically here on the smart board. So one of the issues that I took or that I had with this reading was basically the way in which I'm trying to get it pulled up. The way in which it appears to me that it seemed like an assault on Afrocentrism or any type of historical historical approach that would deny Europe as the single most important aspect, or I think he mentioned, I'll pull it up word for word in a minute, that any history had to start, if you want to be honest, it has to start in Europe. And I think that is very Eurocentric, but I think this writing is, um, I guess, for lack of a better word, Eurocentric. And I think it juxtaposed well with the reading that came after, which was from the Guardian, and that wasn't so much as Eurocentric. It wasn't necessarily Afrocentric, but it definitely wasn't Eurocentric, and I think I agree with that reading more than what is set up in this writing as simply, you know, for all the issues or problems with um, Eurocentric. I think he defines Europe as the West, Europe and America as the West, and I think is kind of unapologetically Eurocentric. So this reading, it was a little bit shocking to read that someone would put those type of sentiments in that paper, but it's here. And one of the comments, I was looking in the footnotes when he was talking about that Afrocentrism. If we go down to the footnotes, he says facts have not stopped some over ingenious characters like Martin Bernal and his Black Athena from confusing Greece, Egypt, and Black Africa. The antidote to this ideology driven misreading of the ancient world is the kind of cool reasoning to be found in Mary Lefkowitz, Not Out of Africa. Um, I think that was interesting because I'm familiar with both of those works. Martin Bernal's Black Athena, which I have read. There are 3 volumes. He deals with different types of evidence, archaeology, linguistic, and other different types of evidence. So it's not a shallow piece of work as this reading would make it seem. And also in this footnote, he talks about looking at the antidote being Mary Lefkowitz, Not Out of Africa, which I'm also familiar with her work, and I wouldn't go as far as to say that was an antidote for what Bernal is writing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that to be such a Eurocentric paper and to dismiss other ideas or other ideologies, other paths, simply as is wrong. They've lost their mind, for lack of a better word. They bumped their head, and they're sick. If propose that Mary Lefkowitz has the antidote. So I do take issue with that, but that was very interesting, and I enjoyed reading the juxtaposition between those two. But I am familiar with that, and I do think that if Robert Royal wanted to make those claims, I think it's almost academically dishonest to hurl those types of academic claims at a writer or a group of writers and not provide any evidence other than to say, for lack of a better term, call them sick. I think I'm running out of time right now. That's just I didn't get a chance to go into all of them. That's 7 minutes in. Probably come back and probably try to do some editing. It's Tuesday now, and I'm not really a content creator. During the pandemic, we did do a lot of video and Zoom conferencing and Zoom calls, but it's been a few years since I've done, so I've got to get familiar with being back in front of the camera. Currently finishing up Inventing Freedom, but all of the writings, all of the readings or works, required readings from this week, I've enjoyed reading, and I think they help answer the question, this discussion question of why is Western civilization is relevant for today. Even though definitions are off, even though there's not always a consensus concerning what exactly Western civilization is, I think for our modern time and what we understand, I believe that Western civilization is the civilization, for lack of a better term, and that takes me back to Royal's work, because even though I don't agree with the way or the structure that he set it up, I will concede and say that Western civilization is basically a European ideology or a European worldview. Even though in one of the other readings they talked about how big the Muslim influence was on Western ideology and how Europeans lost a lot of those ancient works that the Muslims preserved and maintained and studied, while Europeans didn't have that ability, which is true. But I think for our purposes today, I think it's safe to say that the West is that difference between that American and European origins that go back to Greece and Rome. And I think that's supposed to, because we have Asia, um, Eurasia, but I think it's mostly those European countries that that hold on to what we understand as Western civilizations. And I say that because I remember I was watching or reading somewhere about Putin and some of these other leaders who, when they speak about America, they speak about the West, or they speak about those Western values that they don't want to embrace in their Eastern societies. And I think, around the world there are exceptions. Um, we look at China, which is of course would be considered the East, and then you have Hong Kong or Taiwan, which is a little bit, which makes things a little bit complicated. But I think that your average Asian or person from China would look at Taiwan and say that they embrace or they are upholding Western values, even though that's clearly in a different country that we wouldn't necessarily associate with Western civilization, but there are outliers in pretty much everything we do. Another aspect that I didn't get to see much of or didn't necessarily read much out of all required readings this week was the connection of Western civilization and capitalism, which I think is a big movement, and I think it should definitely be studied and understood more. When we talk about economic systems and we talk about how capitalism emerged from mercantilism, and that is a uniquely European economic system, right? That developed in Europe, but quickly spread to the colonies and the Americas. So when I was reading, that's one of the ideas that did pop in my head was about capitalism and economic systems and how they influence what we understand as Western civilization. And it looks like I'm 13 minutes in this video, and it was only supposed to be 3 to 5. So thank you all for spending time and listening to me, and I look forward to working with you all and learning more about Western civilization, what it means, how we understand it, how history understands Western civilization. Yeah, so far I'm enjoying it and look forward to working with you all. Thank you. See you next time.